All right, welcome in to everybody watching this live. I'm already having issues. It looks like it says your browser's not allowing Riverside to save to disk.
Classic.
I have to fix that for computer browser. I think I have to host it on Chrome. I think I have to hop in the room on Chrome
Okay.
or Safari. Probably just Chrome. Let me switch over.
Go ahead and switch up.
Okay.
There's bro.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We are still live. It looks like we are uploading currently. So awesome. All right.
Take two.
So welcome in if you are watching. If you're watching this recording in general, this podcast should be pushed out live. But we are back with the Ascended podcast. It's been a little while. We've been taking a break just to really build and implement a lot of the technology, get the marketing side going, figure out where we're going in general with the Altura Society, or just Altura as we're calling it now. Working on Altura AI additionally, which is pretty awesome. You guys, if you haven't used it recently, feel free to just search Altura Society or Altura AI on the App Store and give them a download because the stuff we're doing in there, or will be doing pretty soon as we develop, is going to be pretty mind blowing. Anthony, how have you been?
Doing well. I was really excited to hear that it was in the works for us to start getting back on the podcast. I kind of missed the I guess the routine, but also the opportunity to talk with, our viewers, the people that are in the community, people we haven't necessarily gotten a chance to talk to in a while about, what it is we've been up to, and also I'm fascinated with the idea of like documentation, like as we go on, so that years from now we can kind of look back and see, how the progress was made. So that's been making me excited, but I'm ready for today for sure.
Yeah. And this is really why we're doing it, guys. It's because of you. We come back in 10 years and they ask, why should I have joined Altura instead of just a Facebook group? And they're like, well, these guys are legit. They've been doing it for 5, 10 years. They have the experience down. I've been following their journey. The journey right now is slow, but that is every journey when you take the first steps. And it looks like, just like at the gym, when you got 12 reps left, it feels like you're never going to get through the set. And then all of a sudden you do a couple more. Here you are. That'll be us in a few years. And looking back, it's going to be a good time. So to get into tonight's episode, do an experiment with me, right? I want you guys to, close your eyes or just sit there and picture along with what I'm saying. It's Sunday night and it's, let's say, 11 p.m., right? You guys got school or work in the morning, whatever it is. You've been in Lovable developing some sort of app or Claude Code, right? And which is trending like crazy now since noon. And you finally get this dashboard or this project or this cool experiment working. It's meeting your idea, right? The user interface that you built looks clean and the logic actually runs, and you're sitting there thinking, honestly, this is probably better than half of the tools that I pay for every month. So you write like a quick post, right? You get on social media, you throw it on X, maybe you go on a couple Discord servers and start talking about the tool you built. And you go to sleep feeling pretty genuinely good about yourself for the first time in weeks, right? Monday hits, right? You wake up, 12 likes. 4 of them are people that you've already known. They just liked it because they're going to support you anyway. You get 1 sign up, and then when you check the email, it's just your own test account from the night before, and it wasn't a real person. By Wednesday, the app still has 0 daily active users who are strangers, and by Friday, you already moved on to the next idea because it just felt like it was dead, even though it was a great idea. That story that I just told you, it's not hypothetical, right? That's the default outcome for anybody building on Lovable or Claude Code and spending massive money in 2026 trying to build a business for themselves. And I know because, trust me, it's happened to me and it's happened to Anthony. And if you're listening to this right now, there's a decent chance some version of it's probably happening to you as well. So the thing, though, is the building part, that's not the problem anymore. It's not hard to develop a website. It's not hard to build an app on the App Store for the most part. You can go from idea to application, basically, that somebody could buy in a weekend, and now maybe even a few hours. The cost has basically collapsed to nothing, really. The problem, though, is what happens after you guys push the app out. Building, got 100 times easier. Distribution gets way harder because AI hasn't figured out how to sell to people yet. And nobody in the vibe coding conversation is really being honest about that gap. So that's what tonight's episode is about. My name is Caleb Schulke. This is the Ascended Podcast, and you are...
I'm Anthony Parra, here on the Ascended Podcast too.
And Anthony here with me tonight. We're going to be talking about what's actually going on in the vibe coding market, and because most projects that we have seen and talked to have died on the vine. And what we're building at Altura to fix that, including some of the embarrassing parts of our journey too, is going to be shared. So whether or not you're here for it or ready to experience it all, we're giving it to you. Let's get into it. So Anthony, before we actually talk about our distribution problem and the distribution problem that the entire market's having really right now, the AI economy in general, because that's really the theme of this episode. Yeah. I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page about what we actually mean when you say vibe coding, right? I don't know if everybody knows that term because I feel like half the people who use that kind of use it to mean slightly different things.
Yeah, I think that's probably smart. Smart way to start off the discussion. I personally didn't think it meant what it actually does, that we'll get into when I first heard the term. Um, I guess I didn't really know what I thought it meant. So the problem with that though is that if we don't get on the same page about what it is we're talking about, it'd probably be it's easy to like kind of get confused on the flavor, if you will, of the vibe coding that you're into. And the result of that is that you'd be ending up picking up the wrong tools, then wonder why you're frustrated, and it kind of plays into the issue of just letting something that was a good idea die on the vine, as you said.
Yeah. And so let's define this properly, right? Vibe coding is the term itself, right? Means to kind of develop something while you're kind of hanging out, right? And the term itself was coined by a guy named, I don't want to butcher this, Andre Karpathy, I think is what it is, in February of last year, 2025. He was a co-founder at OpenAI, ChatGPT, and he led AI and AI development at Tesla. So this guy is a big hitter, right? He's a player in this space. He's not just some random person, right? And the way he used it and described it was essentially you describe what you want in plain English context. AI then takes that, figures out how to write code around it, and then you ship without ever ship, by the way, means to distribute or to actually build and release something without ever manually writing a line of syntax, which is like getting into the weeds of coding yourself. His words were something like, it was like, I just see things, say things, run things, and copy paste things. And for the most part, it works, right? That was kind of his actual description of his own workflow.
I mean, it's honestly not bad. It kind of feels pretty similar to exactly what I do when we kind of get into development stuff with Lovable, which is the tool of choice for us. It's quite literally what we do, right? You just kind of have the opportunity to speak to it, and it just interprets what you're saying into its own. I don't know how it works in the back end personally. I've never taken a coding class, so that's pretty decent description, I would say.
Yeah, same here. And I mean, like for the most part, coding's great, but we all kind of knew, especially with new languages coming out our whole life, like JavaScript and things like that, from just C plus and things. It was going to change, right? The entire space, the stuff we learned in school was going to be different. And within a year of him coining that phrase, Collins Dictionary, and went out and they named vibe coding their word of the year. So this isn't a niche thing anymore. This is like a movement, right? And this is crossed over, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say that the tools are really what made it real, right? Because the concept existed before the tools could ever actually back it up, too.
100%. So let's talk about the tools, right? Because not every tool that you experience is the same, and I do think that matters, right? So you got two broad categories. The first is AI app builders like Lovable, Bolt, and Replit, right? These are built for people who want to go from a text description to kind of a fully deployed working web application. Otherwise, like a website, like a store. And we're talking front end, which is what users see, back end, which is what developers build, the database, which is what holds all the information of the platform, authentication, meaning your sign in, right? All of it from one conversation. You don't need to even know what a database is. You just describe what an app should do. Lovable, Lovable, in particular, is an amazing one, and it has been an insane run on this topic. And they've hit $400 million in annual recurring revenue by early 2026, which is a wild number for a company that barely existed 18 months before that.
It's a wild number, but we can also speak to um, their progress being kind of wild as well, as far as what's been available and properly functioning, like as if you're using their tool to help you with your own development. I
Yeah.
remember, the first couple things that we let kind of just go because they were decent ideas, but we didn't quite know what we were doing yet. We used Lovable for some of those, right? And the difference between like what we were able to build with that version versus today is quite crazy. But so that's the first category, right, of tools. But I want to mention too that there's a second category which would be like AI code editors. The big name here would be Cursor. Claude Code from Anthropic is also in that space. But these are more for people who do like you can use code or actually understand it, or at least read it, right? But want to move dramatically faster. So Cursor crossed $2 billion in ARR by February of this year. Reading that stat right now. It's basically the fastest SaaS company, software as a service, if you don't know what SaaS stands for, in history to hit 100 million, which is it's not exactly toy products, right? It's something viable.
Yeah, that shows that it has massive traction and it's solving a real problem too.
Yeah.
And then the V naught or V0 version 0 from Vercel, 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 sits somewhere in the middle, right? And I would say it's incredible. Vercel is for user interface generation, designing the platform itself. If you need a component or a front end, basically your landing page on the website that looks polished, Vercel's V0 is doing things that used to take a designer and a developer working together probably an entire week.
Yeah. So people not in the space or maybe new to the space, I think this is a part they haven't quite fully internalized yet, which is even hard just for people like you and I that are in the space to conceptualize too, just given how quickly it's developed into a reality. But the key shift that all of these tools created essentially is basically taking the costs to produce software, dropping pretty much to zero. Not even just cheaper than it used to be, like literally zero. Not literally, basically. It costs some money to use Lovable, and especially if you're using it a lot, right? But it's nothing compared to what it used to cost people to have to develop an equivalent product, right? So when the build cost is zero, right, the supply of apps kind of goes vertical, and we're seeing that as we submit to try and get our apps live on Apple. They take forever to respond to us when they didn't used to. It's because of this reason. And when the supply app goes vertical, the supply of apps rather goes vertical. Attention doesn't follow it. Attention is still scarce. So that's kind of the fundamental tension of this moment that we're seeing in real time.
And it's been scarce, right? Even before any of this started. Trying to post a video on social media these days, you get 100 views and then your video gets thrown out. It's like, it's hard already as it is. And then you flood in, you and I know the process of working with the App Store and Apple to get an app listed. They're just so swamped now. What are they, the second, third richest company in the world? And they can't afford, to keep up with the amount of apps that are being submitted. And that's crazy, right? But that's where we get to this problem as a whole, the distribution problem. And so many people are focused on the amazing magic of building, right? And creating a platform, creating a business out of scratch. But selling it is where the money is always going to be made, quite literally, and also figuratively in the types of problems that you have to solve. You're starting to actually face real problems with this. But before we start talking about distribution, quick word right here, guys. If you're building with any of these tools that we've mentioned and you're trying to figure out exactly where your users come from, then that's exactly why we built Altura. It's a marketplace and it's a community where you can list your Vibe coded project or your real coded project and immediately tap into an audience that's already there, already paying attention, already watching this podcast, and already trusting our platform. And it's free to join. We're basically just giving you free customers, and all you have to do is sign up, and it's free. Go to alturasociety.com. Altura, you can see it in the description, Anthony's name down there, Altura, society.com, and you can list your project with one click, right? And we're enhancing that website as we speak. That's it. We will talk more about how it actually works later and in the episode too, but if you guys want to get ahead of it while we're talking or you're just sitting around working, check it out there. Okay, let's get back to it. So here's the honest state of distribution for people building by themselves in 2026. And I want to be direct about this because I think there's a lot to a kind of cope in the vibe coding community about it. So we all love Elon, right? His platform X, which used to be Twitter, right? You have Product Hunt, which is where people releasing things, projects would go tell the entrepreneurial community about your business, right? You have Reddit. These were real distribution channels for indie builders, meaning like kind of independent builders, 3 or 4 years ago. You'd post something cool, it would get some pretty decent traction, and you'd wake up with maybe 1,000 signups. That still happens, right? But nowadays it's kind of become this like extreme outlier, not like the baseline expectation. which is problematic.
Yeah, and I think that's largely because this is going to sound nerdy, but there's a fly flying in front of me. The algorithmic environment, and what I mean by that is like how algorithms are set up to work to bring engagement, right? It's kind of changed completely in the time frame we're speaking of. So at this point in time, like every platform clearly is optimizing for engagement, which means that they're surfacing what already has momentum, what people are already spending more time watching, interacting with, liking, reposting, sharing, things like that, commenting on specifically. So basically, what that means is that if you have no audience, your cold post or like your out of the blue a post that's cold in comparison to something with momentum being warm, on X, for example, kind of just goes into a void, right? The algorithm doesn't know you, it doesn't know that your video has anything interesting in it, so it doesn't show you to anyone, and then you get no engagement, and then because you get no engagement, the algorithm confirms that it shouldn't show you to anyone. So for people starting out, or for these cool ideas that get posted into the void, as I mentioned, it's operating basically as a closed loop.
You can tell that Mark Zuckerberg designed this because it's basically you're chasing after the cool kids, right? Like you're going after you're like the nerd trying to follow in the shadow of like the person that actually has attention, actually has the spotlight, and you want to like suck any sort of like attention or traction that that thing has because it's cool. People care about that stuff, right? But a lot of times the things that actually matter, the things that have real world value, the opportunities to invest in, the opportunities that actually make you rich, they live in the shadows because if everyone did it right, it would be basically patched, or there would be an over dilution of the market if the actual strategies were insanely popular among people. So you have to kind of spend some time looking for things less common because those are probably the one-off ideas that make you a millionaire. And the other thing that happened too, like with what Anthony said, and this is kind of specific to vibe coding in general with AI, is that every single app demo, every app on the App Store is starting to look the same because the same AI is building it. And I'm not saying that to be like harsh, right? I'm saying it because it's true and it's also important. When you build with Lovable or you build with Bolt, right? There's a visual kind of fingerprint to the output that Lovable learns from. It's clean, it's modern, it's functional, but it's also kind of a little generic. And Lovable pulls data, right? They look at what websites are doing the best and they look at why, and then they use that to, develop better websites, which means that if you post a screen recording of your new app, it looks like 40 other screen recordings people saw that week because Lovable or Bolt is producing patterns of things that work time and time again. There's no visual differentiation anymore because everything's AI coded, right?
Yeah. On operations side of Altura, which is what I'm kind of over here, we think about that a lot, especially even drilling down further in the product side.
Yeah.
The interface is almost commoditized at this point, right? What's not commoditized though is context. So who you are, what problem you're actually solving, whether someone who already trusts something else is vouching for you as well. Those are things that are kind of it's a little harder for these commoditized or generalized kind of fingerprinted apps, right? To kind of put their prints on and make just like everything else. So that's kind of the point of what we're doing with our products in particular.
Yeah, and I think that gets to the stat that I think is probably the most honest summary of this problem so far, right? We've seen figures in the research for today that have suggested around 99%, so basically every vibe coded project never gets a second session from a stranger. 1%, which is saying, a second session means a return to the website. So somebody hits it, they don't come back because it's slop, right? And that's not because the app is bad or solving a problem that is not worthy. Some of them are genuinely really impressive. It's just because the person building it has no existing distribution. They don't have trust, right? They don't have a following. They don't, and they're trying to get cold strangers right off the internet to use a product they've never heard of that just looks bad. They don't know how to vibe code properly because it does still take skill, and it's built by somebody they've never heard of, solving a problem that the stranger basically has to be convinced and pleaded to believe that they actually have. And that's
Yeah,
what
and
I
then
see leading people like astray. What do you got?
I was just gonna say, and then their default instinct too, when that happens, is just like more and more and more. Try to build more, refresh a product, maybe add a feature, redesign the landing page, change like your onboarding flow, something like that, um, to try and get it better, built out better, right?
Yeah,
But then it seems like the product isn't the problem though.
yeah, right. It's not like so. Why don't people just run ads? Why not SEO, optimize search engine optimization? Like, make yourself show up easier on Google to people, right? Why not just grind an audience on social media first? You ever think about that, right? And the honest
Yeah,
answer, though, is to those questions, they're all legitimate strategies, but they're slow, right? And ads are very expensive. And most people are in their college dorm room or they have a job already. They can't afford to put the money into ads, right? And it's most solo vibe coders have zero budget for customer acquisition. You have to have funding and you have to therefore be established already, right? So it's kind of a lose-lose, right? And 63%, so about two-thirds of the people using these tools that we named are not developers, right? They're entrepreneurs, they're creatives, they're people that finally got access to build what they've been imagining because you don't have to pay a developer anymore. Most of them don't have a marketing, team or a $10,000 ad budget sitting around, or they would have hired the developer in the first place and gotten it
right.
done already.
Yeah, just spent the money that they've already spent up to that point, right? So the other thing you mentioned too is SEO, and I just want to say too that even that takes months, like assuming you did it correctly too. I mean,
Yeah.
ads require capital you probably don't have, as Caleb just mentioned, and skills that are like a whole second job to learn. You can ask either of us how we know. And building an audience first, which is like the advice everyone usually gives influencers online, pretty much in any industry. It kind of just puts you in a position where you end up spending 6 months making content before you ever even ship a product, and that's kind of backwards for how we think about building, when you could have been spending that time um, actually putting the product out there instead of just doing what you think is the strategy to get people to look at your product once it's done.
Yeah, sometimes it's like I kind of miss drop shipping like I used to in high school because you at least have a physical product that you could show somebody, right? You can
Yeah,
show people an app too, right? You could send them the response to Altura AI, and say this is how our AI responded, right? It's okay, but it's so hard because it's so competitive. And I've tried running like I've ran ads too, and like Facebook, if you run meta ads, you probably have to spend at least $50 per day, so 1,500 a month, to give it enough data just to train and allow it to figure out who to show your ad to before it actually even starts to perform. And it's just most people don't have that sitting around. And again, Claude Code knew this problem. They knew, hey, let's focus on the building part, not necessarily the distribution. And we can kind of take advantage of a bunch of people we can get to subscribe because we can show them a magic trick of building something cool, and then we kind of leave them in the dust. And that's kind of my problem and my beef with Claude right now. The real bottleneck, right, and I want to name this specifically because I think it's underdiagnosed, is what I'd call transfer of trust, really. And strangers will not try your app unless it's somebody that they've trusted really has used it and vouched for it, right? It's like ChatGPT. Oh yeah, I just asked ChatGPT that, right? Just ask Altura AI that, right? Whatever it is. That's not unique to apps. It's just how humans decide in general and try new things. Like look at how the diamond market, right? De Beers took over. We all know the story of that, right? Like they forced a couple men to buy these insanely expensive engagement rings with diamond. They cut down the supply. Women talk about it. It's flashy, right? And then the women basically sell to other women the idea that they need to get a ring. And human beings, word of mouth, when done properly, is the most powerful marketing channel of all time. You just have to get it started. And it's hard to get it started when it's hard to show somebody that in the real world too. And again, the problem is just most vibe coders in general are building in a context where they don't have any existing trust or a reason for the people that they're close to already to actually check it out because it looks just like everything else that's being built. So the app, and especially as more apps exist, has to earn even more trust entirely on its own. It's cold with no momentum and no social proof, no reviews, no referrals, no one saying like I used this and it actually solved my problem, so you should too. If that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And the thing that I'm sure you're probably thinking as if you were listening to this is that's probably like an impossible hill to climb, especially if you're a solo founder or maybe you just have a small team like we do at Altura, maybe with no marketing budget, and you're kind of just trying to build the whole thing in a weekend. And maybe that's figurative, right? But in a short amount of time, it seems impossible to achieve, right?
Yeah, and I don't like it because I'm trying to think of like an analogy, right? It's like kind of like a dealership, right? They show you the flashy Mustangs, and military bases, right? You and I know they have those dealerships. Here's the sick Mustang. It's got the like straight pipe exhaust, all the cool stuff. They don't tell you when you're already in and signing the paperwork that the interest rate's going to be 19% APR or something like that, crazy, right? And so it's kind of like a bait and switch, or more just like they're not giving you the full story up front. And Claude kind of does that a lot with Claude Code because it builds cool looking stuff, but they kind of know that most of the stuff they're building is really just about the actual coding, and it's not about selling an app or creating a business that could actually survive on its own. And so what happens is the project dies. Claude loves it because the builder then just moves on to the next idea, and then this cycle just repeats over and over. And a lot of times you spend more money. It takes you longer to build, so you pay your next month's $200 Claude subscription. You buy more Lovable credits, right? Which is kind of honestly a waste because a lot of these projects are solving real problems for real people, or they wouldn't have existed. Somebody had to have the idea, which means it's a problem they must have had, and it's just people can't find each other. It's just like the connection tissue of finding the person that created the solution for my problem is not in existence. So, where's the market actually at for that? And who's actually spending money on my stuff? Because there's real money flowing out there, and it's just not flowing to most vibe coders. And there's like a big scavenger hunt going on, and nobody's bringing them together in the room.
Yeah. Um, well, then I guess we should talk about where the market actually lies, like what exists out there to get people, in a spot where business to business, maybe even a little bit business to consumer, people can kind of get their good ideas out there and have people be trying them out.
We're giving you guys such a good setup because you know where we're going to go with this too. But we could talk about Altura all day. I want to talk about the macro economy, right? This isn't like some sort of VSL or sales pitch, right? I want to give you guys information. That's what the podcast is about. So it puts the to put the opportunity here into perspective. The vibe coding market as a category. So we're talking about the tools like Claude Code or Replit or Lovable, the platforms, everything in the ecosystem is estimated probably around four. I think it was $4.7 billion. It's almost 5 billion in 2026. That's projected to hit 12.3 billion in 2027. So the market's going to triple in the next year. Again, that's the vibe coding market. So three times as many people or projects or growth is going to occur in this industry in the next year. That is a hot market to be working in or connecting in if you have any interest in it. That's 38% compound annual growth rate too. And the total addressable market for AI assisted software, if you zoom out to 2040, let's say, is projected at, take a guess, Anthony. What do you think it is?
Well, triple in a year at 4 or 7. I don't know. I'd probably guess somewhere around like 300 billion.
$325 billion from 12. So you give it 13 more years, and you're, what is that, a 30x times? It's just going to be massive, guys, is what I'm trying to say. This is not a fad. This is infrastructure. I think 300 billion, by the way, is bigger than the entire global economy of sports, like soccer, football, NBA, NHL, MLB, all of the different Formula One, all the different sports in the world combined. I think it's around 300 billion. So the vibe coding within 13 years is going to overpass all of sports, basically, is what I'm saying. That's how big
Yeah,
it's going to get.
that's insane. Assuming sports don't go right. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. You said this is infrastructure. It's really got to be at that rate, right? And what's also interesting though about if you really take a look about where or look at rather where the money is actually moving and flowing to and from in the industry, So that of that 4.7 currently, it doesn't seem to all be going straight to the tool companies either. I mean, there seems to be a growing population of buyers who kind of are really just looking for the output of vibe coding, not necessarily doing it, but rather like the custom software, niche AI tools, for example, workflow specific apps. But they just don't know how to use the tools themselves, or they just refuse to or don't even want to as well.
That's a great point too. And I think vibe coders massively kind of underestimate who their real buyer actually is too. It's like a meme on Instagram I've seen, like B2B SaaS, right? It's like everyone's trying to sell it to some other business that they picture is out there that has all these funds available, but everybody else is doing the same thing. The
Yeah.
default assumption is, I'll build a thing and I'll post it on Product Hunt, I'll post it on X. Developers and early adopters are just going to find it. They're just going to stream in because it's such a good idea. But there's probably, there are three buyer pools I'd say that are underserved and actually have an actual budget that I just never see vibe coders talking about. And I'll break these down real quick. The first one is communities with a budget but no engineers, right? So think about like a yoga studio membership community, a local professional networking group, maybe like a niche hobbyist club, right? That's been running on Facebook groups for 10 years, and kind of hates to. These groups have recurring membership dues. They have a reason to subscribe. They have a real operational problem, so scheduling, payments, communication, event management, and they have absolutely no one technical that lives on their team. A halfway decent vibe coder tool solves one specific problem for them, that could be worth $100 a month easily. And there's millions of companies that you could do this for. A lot of guys I know would just get started in this space and you just go hustle, right? I think you could literally go on, Apple Maps, and you could just look for businesses that are service companies that don't have a website attached to their Apple Maps. And I think I saw a guy call and be like, hey, could you, you know, tell me, could you give me to your website so I could book this HVAC repair? And they're like, well, we actually don't have a website. And he's like, I know, that's why I was calling. I actually can make one for you. I'll send it over. Let me know if you like it. And he's like, yeah, I'd be interested. He's like, $100 sounds fair. They don't know what it costs, right? And you pay the $12 a year for the domain. Once it's built, you barely touch it, and you sit around and collect passive income. That right there is a massive reason. You're not targeting, consumers or other businesses. You're targeting those who don't even have a website, and that's kind of for a long time still going to be a massive market for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you said you were going to break them down, but I think I just came up with one as well, that I could think
Okay.
of that would fit this as well. Basically, it'd be like kind of what you and I are in a way, a combination between producer and consumer. You can, if you will, maybe call them a prosumer. Um, so people that basically are already paying, like let's say, $15 to $50, depending on how many things they're subscribed to, per month for personal productivity software. Things like maybe Notion, Superhuman, some other AI tools. Um, what's that calendar one? Motion, same thing. Almost Notion, right? But
Yeah.
people that are already paying for these kind of things to have their business model or their organization kind of tooled out and structured, right? They're already in the habit of paying, for tools that make their life better. So if you can come up with something as a vibe coder, um, that's meaningfully better than the generic option that's already in the market that everybody uses, that's specific to their use case, I think that they pay for that as well. So they don't necessarily need a sales call, right? Though the difference with them is that they kind of just need trust and like a way to process the payment as well.
That's in line with what I was gonna say, right? Because we talked about what I just talked about was people with no business that you're targeting. Now you're
Yeah.
talking about B2C, so business to consumer, and that is the people, right, that want to optimize their life. They have all these tools. They just want a better tool, right? They're in this like game. It's me probably. I spent a lot of money on like this recording software we're in right now for the studio, and I just found this better pick that we're now using to host the podcast now that we're back again, and it cost less and it did the job better. And just because they had high trust and because they were, providing the things we needed, I switched over and I dropped the money happily because I need the tool regardless, right? So you're not making $1,000 sales because it's not a massive business. It's not a massive course either or anything like that. It's just a regular person that needs what you got. And a lot of times that can be kind of hard to grow because you have to put in front of a lot of people and you don't make as much. But it is easy to sell to people more often because you're going to come across people on the street that actually could use what you're selling. So obviously, as you can tell, that brings us into the third one, which is people selling B2B, right? B2B SaaS, the big one. And it's small B2B teams who have a nice workflow that basically no off the shelf software has ever solved. Complex stuff, right? Like they're running their business with spreadsheets, email chains, and whoever gets hired as an intern to manage the whole thing manually, right? It's just like a shit show, if you don't pardon my French there. They would pay hundreds of dollars probably a month for like a custom solution for their business. Basically, think of it like your ma and pa shop that does accounting. You walk into it, papers everywhere, right? There's filing cabinets. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. You say, hey, I could digitize most of this. They will actually give you a few $1,000 probably, and maybe $1,000 a month to actually keep their website operational. You put everything into Lovable, and in a couple hours, it gives you the ability to input stuff in a database, which you can then export, and it links to a private server, and you're good to go, right? They don't know how to build it, these people, right? They've been doing accounting for 40 years. They can't afford an agency. They're just waiting for somebody like you who, to build exactly what they need, but they can't find it because it doesn't exist on any marketplace that they know really how to search. So basically just taking systems that already exist and upgrading them in a business capacity as opposed to a consumer capacity.
Yeah, I think that point kind of just points to why like marketplaces themselves matter probably so much more than like a standalone landing page for this moment in time at least. A landing page is essentially like you asking a stranger to trust you, whereas a
Yeah.
marketplace is kind of you inheriting the trust that the platform built for itself and already has with the buyers, right? So that's a fundamentally different starting position than if you were just trying to get people to naturally get to your website by trying to convince them to do so over a call or showing it to them or even through ads.
Yeah, which brings us to Altura, right? And I want to be really specific about what we're building here, guys. It's not just a sales letter, and especially what stage we're actually at here, because we're committed to being honest on this show, too. And I'm going to do that with you guys always. And that's why I hope over time you guys see this podcast as meaningful. So, Altura Society, or Altura, right? What is it? The simple version is it's on the App Store or Play Store. Go download Altura Society and check it out. It's a marketplace and a community platform, kind of like Facebook, right? Where builders, people that vibe code, or just develop a software or a business in general, list their projects or their business, and where buyers inside those communities can and inside our community can find it naturally because the whole thing is focused on people discovering each other. And people that actually want to use those projects can get matched through AI to your project without having to lift a finger because they talk to our AI, Altura AI, and it gives them the solutions they need. So you're getting matched with somebody that actually needs you in real time. The vision underneath is that it's one subscription, right? It's one identity. There's real events, real handoffs to real people because you can make your website look good, but can you pay $30 and have a guy for 1 hour look over the entire thing, give you advice on exactly what to tell Lovable to continue enhancing it and save yourself $3,000 on a development team? No. You need the person in the chain so they cannot make your website look like AI slop, but you also need to find the right person that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, right? And also, maybe that same person would come around and buy your service if it's applicable to them. So you're getting free traction. You might as well sign up. It's not just like another in the link in bio type thing where you're posting on Instagram and hoping somebody watches your reel. You get guaranteed traction from people.
Yeah, and that all comes from it being a community, right? That's key
Yeah.
to our business model, right? It's not a passive directory where you would just list your thing and kind of hope somebody finds it, like Fiverr, Upwork largely would be. The people in the community are active. They're people just like you, trying to find things and ways to solve problems that they have that may or may not be unique, but need to be solved regardless. They have context. They know what's being built. They know what it takes to build. So when somebody lists a project there, the community has already been watching that project come to life. They know what it's about. They know who's built it. They already have a relationship with the builder. And that trust transfer is what we were talking about earlier, what Caleb, kind of introduced to you as a subject in and of its own. It's already happened at that point. It went on Altura's marketplace as opposed to just hoping somebody finds it naturally.
Yeah. And that's, and I want to be honest too about like where we are too. We are live. Our site is live. We have members, right? And we have early listings on our marketplace. We're growing right now. We're not Etsy. We're not Fiverr, right? We don't have tens of thousands of active buyers on day one. That's not what I'm asking you to believe right now. But the thing I keep coming back to is the trust layers there. We're right in front of you talking about it, right? The founders of Etsy aren't. And the trust layer is the hard part. Getting more people in the community that already has trust and culture and real relationships, like asking somebody to join Facebook, right? That's a solvable problem. But building trust from scratch with every stranger who lands on a random cold website, that's the problem that most vibe coders are stuck with.
And, too, like, then on the AI side, which is where I spend a bit of some of my time, right? Both of us kind of do. We have Altura AI, which we've been calling Nova internally just for App Store, copywriting issues, called Altura AI. But the way I describe Nova is not necessarily about having a smarter model, which is what the talk around AI would have you believe or associate to be with, like, why people are creating new tools. But rather, I think it's more about the AI that remembers you and can prove it and can allow you to use it in a meaningful way beyond just speaking to a language model about ideas for your business, but rather letting it know you to a point where it can recommend things because it's integrated with everything that you've put into it, accounts you already have from other platforms, things like that.
If you guys have vibe coded, think of Altura AI basically as Lovable or as Claude Code, but instead of just making a project, right, you connect your project to it, and it is the brain that manages your business, not just the actual development, but it looks at your project. It then looks at your Stripe account. It then looks at your social media following. It then looks at your traction on the marketplace. It then looks at other listings on our marketplace, which is data ChatGPT or Claude will never have. And it scrapes it and it says, well, most people are actually buying these types of services today. I think your business that you're in development of right now, that you could be working on the side while using our platform, could benefit from these specific developments. I think this is where you have to go. And then again, if you need help building it from a real person, we can recommend you to that. Otherwise, as it learns and as you get deeper into conversation with it, it can recommend your business to the right people. And not only that, but our community itself will start networking you and putting you in front of people and personas on our social page that actually have commonalities with your mindset and with the type of stuff you're building. And that's the pitch, guys. I want to explain why that matters for vibe coders in particular, because I think it sounds like a feature, but it's really just a structural advantage. So Nova, again, is memory first. It's the AI assistant that can remember that you actually, want to escape your 9 to 5 and you want to go live in Thailand for 2 years. And you have this passion to get out of the system of labor that you're stuck in, or school or college or whatever it is. And it extracts that from the day-to-day thoughts, and it helps you actually plan as a consultant. It's not just answering one question for you like Claude or ChatGPT would. We actually use those models to power Nova, so you're still getting just as smart of answers anyway. And again, it's bundled with Altura Pro, which is alturasociety.com, at $15 a month flat, and you get both premium access. And the way it works, architecturally, Anthony, you want to break that down?
Yeah. First of all, I would love to spend 2 years in Thailand. I'm in that boat for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're confused why we're if you're confused why we're talking, we were talking about Altura and then we shifted to Nova and what it does as well. Basically, architecturally, the short version is this: there's one database, okay, Altura, 2 apps, and they have a shared memory. So basically, whatever you're doing in Altura, which is where you manage your community activity, marketplace listings, your projects, that context feeds into Nova, right, or Altura AI. So whatever you're doing in Nova, then You'd be using it, for example, for planning, writing, executing tasks. That also updates your context in Altura. So it's kind of a shared memory graph, right? So when you come back the next day or the next week from your last work session, hopefully you're not spending weeks in between. Nova isn't starting from scratch. It already knows your project. It knows what you've been building. It knows what you've been asking it questions about. It knows the problems you ran into the last time you used it. And moving forward, you can have that same context to go ahead and solve them.
Yeah. So it's not just knowing or a chat GPT where it gives you advice, it can research the internet and stuff. We can do all that stuff too. But it actually knows in real time. How much money did you make today? How well did your video perform on YouTube? Claude can do some of that, but what it can't do is connect you into the actual marketplace where you're actually generating leads and traffic. And then additionally, kind of help you make improvements and plan the other parts of your life around that business too. And you can host multiple businesses. So if you're tired of just running one store and you want another app at the same time, you can list multiple workspaces in our platform and manage both of your businesses, whereas your account then gives you a summary of everything that's happening at one time and you don't have to worry about the individual scale. I think at this point, like, I love this conversation. We have so much more to talk about with vibe coding, and we'll probably push it to the next weeks as we go. But for time's sake, we'll wrap it up here and say that the best thing you guys can do is check it out. Like, go in there, set up your workspace, connect your website, and price something out, list it in the marketplace, and you don't have to spend a dime. Your stuff is getting pushed in front of people that may want to buy it. And it's not complex. You don't need all these screenshots and stuff like Fiverr or Upwork. You just put in your website and it extracts and helps you create a listing from scratch with one click. So if you guys don't have the time to click 4 times basically and sign in, click to the workspace and create your platform, then I don't know what to tell you. It's about as easy as it gets to monetize yourself online and then start meeting people that know what exact moves to make in your industry. Anthony, before we wrap it up tonight, do you have any last comments or things that you want to say to our viewers that have been maybe going through this journey?
Yeah, for sure. Not necessarily in like an inspirational kind of way, but I think I just want to tag on to what you're saying as a not maybe a challenge, but as like a an offer for these people to come and try it out. If you couldn't tell by now, we're not really people that care for like corporate copy kind of speak. We're people that have developed what we've developed because it didn't exist when I mean, it still is. It exists now, but it didn't exist up until we made it. When we wished there was something like that could have made our idea more less difficult to distribute and to get people using, right? So we just went ahead and made it ourselves, and that's kind of what lies at the heart of what people are doing with vibe coding in general, the subject of our
Yeah.
conversation tonight. But that said, if you're gonna go and try it out, make a listing, don't just kind of throw what you think other people want to hear, which is the standard for the industry to get people to come and try your app. Just
Yeah.
tell your story. Be like us. Do where we're making a podcast, right? And we're kind of just laying it out in the line to say this is where we're at. This is what we've done. This is our idea, and we don't know who's going to watch it, right? But be like that's what I would say is come out and join the community in a meaningful sense, and not just in a sense of like I'm going to try and just put something out there and hope people find it, because that's how you've been treating. That's what we were just talking about. That's how people have been treating every distribution opportunity or platform up to this point. So if the point of that is to be something different and unique in the market, then treat it as such. Come in, let us know your story, engage with members, talk to us in there. We're in there all the time. That's kind of our main. I was just telling people that we're messaging in we have a Telegram of our team that used to work together. We kind of do separate things now, but I was saying we're on the app all the time. Just come talk to us in there, right? And put a post up there and see what happens, and just let it be genuine. Let it be about you and what you do. And I think that you'll find more success that way than treating it like every other tool that's on the market currently.
I like that life is kind of it's life is teaching us such a beautiful lesson right now in these years. It's that business for the entirety of human history down to when somebody traded, some grain for a hammer, right? Like was business is always between two people exchanging something between each other.
Yeah.
And the more the for the first time ever we have, the thing we're actually producing value from is not human. And so we're getting taught the beautiful reminder and lesson that it doesn't matter what tools you have to make hammer or to make more hammers or to make, refine your grain or whatever it is. There's always still got to be a human at the other end of that because that's the person that's handing you money. And so you still got to be a salesman. You still got to get your product out the door. And because AI is not human like you always, no matter how good AI gets, have an advantage because you are blood and bones too. So use that right now. Use the fact that you can be part of a community of other people that also have skin and bone and aren't a bunch of computers and use the computers, for the important stuff, but uh, learn how to do business by being with people that do it already. And I think, if it's free and there's an app out there and stuff, and obviously we're redesigning the stuff right now, so be patient with us. Why not check it out? That's our ask. That's what Anthony and I have just been echoing, and we'll see you guys next week, I guess, on the podcast too, and we'll continue this pattern of just getting deeper into these lessons for you guys, so you have something to take away. I'm excited to do this. I'm sure Anthony, you kind of are too, to get back
Yeah.
into the swing of this. And for the next quite a few years here, we're going to be the faces behind this and helping you guys get one step ahead. I wish you guys a happy Monday and rest of your week. We'll get this episode up soon. And whatever device you're on, subscribe and look down below or wherever you can for the link to get into the society. Have a great night and God be with you.
Take care.